Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025 and the best wishes of the new year to you all. Over the last couple of months, we've had more and more inquiries from customers about how we can integrate AI into their business processes with DocuWare. I wanted to show you today how we can connect DocuWare to OpenAI to enable us to run queries against information using the AI APIs. Without further ado, let's jump in. So the first thing we need to do is enable the connection for a web service call between DocuWare and OpenAI. To do that, click on our name and click Configurations. Scroll down and you'll see we have the Web Services option underneath the integrations. If we click into there, now we want to create a new web service, and it's going to be a REST web service that we are going to use. Then within here, we're going to give it a name, so OpenAI, and we need to connect it to the base URL of the APIs for OpenAI, which is https api.openai.com. No need to test the connection, it will fail if we try and connect to there. So just fill that information in, click Save, and that is step one done. The second thing we need to do now is to set up somewhere to manage our API key within DocuWare. So to do that, we click back to come out of the web service management. That's going to have made sure we've just saved our information. We click on the 9 dots in the top left hand corner, go to File Cabinets, and we want to create a new file cabinet called API Keys. We don't need full text here, so we can turn that off. There's no need for that when we're connecting to the APIs. Now next, under the database fields, what I do within here is field 1 is going to be connection name, and I then create the filing cabinet. What I then do is I create a secondary field, and I call that the API key field. Ensure that you set the length of that to 2000 characters. The reason for that is we're not ever sure how long the key is going to be, so we just want to make sure we give enough space in that field to be able to put the entire key in. Click Save, and there we have our filing cabinet ready to hold our API keys in. If we wanted to, we could also increase the security of the filing cabinet. We could also look to check the integrity of the documents to make sure nobody else is looking at them. We can sort kind of all sorts of permissions in here to make sure that that API key is as safe as it can be within our DocuWare cabinet. Now we need to go to OpenAI to get our keys. To do that is incredibly simple. If we browse to platform.openai.com, sign up if we don't have an account, and then on the left hand side we have API keys. Within our API keys, if we create a new secret key, give it a name, create the secret key, and OpenAI is going to present the secret key to us in front of us. Copy it to the clipboard. Now, obviously, that is a secret key. It will be deleted before this video goes live, so don't try and use it. If we then go back to our DocuWare system now, which is back into our regular DocuWare system, we can create a data record in our API keys database. We want to give it a name. And in the API key now, what we want to do is type bearer space and then the key that we have just copied from OpenAI. So that again is bearer space and then the key that we have just copied from OpenAI. Click Create Data Record, and we're going to pop up in the top corner telling us that our API keys have been successfully created. So that's the bulk of our setup now done for the connection. So how can we use this in DocuWare now later down the line? Well, that's incredibly simple as well. If we go to our workflows and create a new workflow, or if you've obviously got existing workflows, you can do it within there. Give the workflow a name. Set your trigger condition. And again, obviously this is standard DocuWare stuff, so you can do whatever you need to do in here when you're setting this up. Type in your password. And now within our workflow, to be able to use OpenAI, we have all of the components set up for us. The first thing we need to do is go and get the API key variable and move that into a text variable, and again of length 2000. Now to get the API key is incredibly simple. All we need to do is set up an assign data step called get API key. In our destination type, set the global variable to the API key field. We're going to get it from a filing cabinet, and the value we're going to get is from the API keys cabinet. We want to get the API key where the connection name equals, and obviously this is where we've got a bit of flexibility. We can choose the connection name that or the API or the whatever AI we want to use based on the API keys that we have set up in the other cabinet. So my connection was called OpenAI. So if I put the name OpenAI in there, click OK, OK again, I now have my API keys ready to use in my workflow. So if we now show what a sample call needs to look like, we want to go to web service. We need to give our web service a name. Obviously it can be whatever you want. In line with best practices, it is good to keep to some sort of naming convention that you know what's happening. Under the web service, we want to connect to the OpenAI web service that we connected to previously. Under the request, the method that we want to do is a post method, because we're going to be posting information into OpenAI. Now, when we set the web service up, we kept it incredibly simple by just putting in api.openai.com. This meant we could do multiple different things with the OpenAI API without having to have multiple different connections and a large list of web service connections later down the line. What that does mean is we then need to tell it the route when we're making the request. So under route, we want to add a new route, and the route we want to add in is /v1/chat/completions. That's going to allow us to run our chat completions. Under the header, we want to add an additional option here. That's going to be called authorization. And we're going to use that API key global variable that we set in the step beforehand. If you don't want to do this, because this API key, because we're setting it in a variable somewhere else in the workflow, is going to be visible at that point. If you wanted to not show the API key in the background when you can look at the workflow overview, you could come into here, do your fixed entry and type your bearer. Obviously, the only thing to remember is you have to do that at every stage in the workflow that you're going to make an AI call. And you also then have to ensure that should you change the key for any reason, or should the key expire for any reason, that you go back to every single step where you're using that and change it at every single step. The method that I've shown means there's one place that manages it for all. You can easily change it in one place and you can access it again there. Into the HTTP body, we then need to make our API call request. Now to do that, we need to create an open bracket. We need to define the model we want to call. In fact, an easier option is if we go back to our API keys page. Top right, we've got docs, and on the left hand side we've got text generation, where it shows the documentation on how to run a call. So if we go down to the example that they give, if we copy out, first of all ensure it's showing curl. Mine does by default just because that's what I've set up previously. And under \D, what we want to copy out is everything except the 2 apostrophes at the start and finish. If we go back to our DocuWare workflow, paste it in, and now we can make our prompt for ChatGPT that we want to run within DocuWare. So I don't know, we'll use the sample that's there, we'll show that working. So quickly I'm going to save it just so we've got that there. I'm then just going to go back in, go to my requests, under the header I'm going to paste in my API key from the other filing cabinet, go back to my workflow, run the request, and there we have it. We can see here now we've had a successful call into the ChatGPT API, and we have now data that is usable for us in DocuWare. The response is going to be under the content section, so we can see it there. So now to get to that data is incredibly simple. Under the JSON path, under choices, message, content, there it is. We can see it there. We can then map the JSON or the value outputs from OpenAI as we need within the system. I don't know if I chuck that into the invoice number. Obviously there's much more you can do here. We also have a web service that makes the full text of the document available, so we can then use this exact process to get data out of the document itself. If that is something you're interested in, it is a web service that you can use. We fill data on documents. We do tons of information on that side of things, so please don't hesitate to get in contact. My information is below and also at the start of the video. Would be great to hear from you. If there's any other AI use cases you'd like me to run through within DocuWare, let me know. I will be putting some other videos together on how we can communicate with different AIs as well. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.